What's going on, everybody? Welcome into GDT Live, presented by the Game Day Terps podcast. My name's Dayton Camo. Alongside me, Colton Davies. Apologies for the technical difficulties here, but we're going to get things going right here now. Colton, it's my first show this week. I'm happy to be back in the swing of things. Missed out Monday. I was at work up in the city at Mayo Media Network, and then yesterday I was producing with Eastlink doing a ball game there. So we always love working with Eastlink and getting in some stuff there, getting some reps in. Colton, you brought up a couple of things to start off the show that you wanted to talk about. A couple of things with the World Junior Summer Showcase and an article by Brad Schlossman. But why don't you start off with that stuff about the Summer Showcase?
Yeah, just the inter-squad game yesterday. Stephen Ellis had a good little article out about it, and I just wanted to highlight Michael Hage. I thought he was phenomenal last night in that inter-squad game, and it was just Canada Red versus Canada White, so it wasn't really anything too exciting, but it was a chance for everybody to kind of watch everybody play and a chance for the guys to play against each other. And it was solid. Hage had a goal and an assist, I believe. My light is blinding me currently as I try to fix this. So he had a goal and an assist, and I just wanted to touch on one thing, and that was what Steven had said in his article, and that was Hage is a perfect number 2 center because he plays a reliable two-way game without sacrificing offensive chances. And I think that is a great analysis for him, right? So he can fit that mold of the number 2 center perfectly. He's a guy that can definitely jump up and is a top prospect for Montreal. But you're the Montreal guy. What do you make of having Michael Hage?
I mean, obviously, Michael Hage coming in is going to be a big addition for Montreal whenever they get him. He's a fan favorite already just because of his ability to speak French. So that's always something that Montreal fans love. But his game on the ice, definitely something that Montreal fans will look forward to. A right-hand shot, something to add on the right-hand side. It's all upside, I think, when you talk about Michael Hage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, this year coming up, he'll play in Michigan again. And I think he'll have a big year. And it's going to be exciting to see what that team in Michigan can even do as well as they bring on Henry Muse and Jack Ivankovic, of course. Some exciting stuff. But, I think the World Junior Summer Showcase so far it's been cool. I don't know how much you've paid attention to it, but I've been watching the games kind of here and there, keeping up on Twitter, of course, with Steven, as he's been all over there with posting highlights, which has been great. But have you been keeping up with it at all?
Yeah, I haven't got to watch too much of it. Honestly, I saw the USA, some of the highlights there the other day. LJ Mooney putting on a show, a snipe, a couple assists. The one thing I did see earlier, right before we went live, was an article or a report that Mark Masters made about Carter George, and he's saying that Carter George has like a habit of going to McDonald's the night before game days, and it came as a surprise to the LA nutritionist and stuff like that. So that's something I want to watch. I want to watch the video on the report and see what George said. He said it was kind of like a lighthearted, funny one, so I want to go watch that one. But yeah.
That's like me last night ordering McDonald's at 9:00 at night. Yeah, I'm sure Carter.
You're also not at the World Junior Summer Showcase going to play here. So.
No, of course not. But I'm sure the LA nutritionists were kind of taken back by that. They'd be like, "You're putting what into your body before the game or the night before?" Hey, whatever works, man.
Fuel.
Yeah, whatever works. If a McDouble feels you, all power to you. I don't even want to talk about what I was else gonna talk about. However, English works there for a second. Let's just bring Reed Duthie on and let's talk to Reed about Brantford and everything, and then I'll get to the college stuff later.
Sounds good. All right, everyone. Well, let's welcome in the voice of the Brantford Bulldogs, Reed Duthie. Reed, how's it going?
Going great, guys. Great to be here with you. Thanks so much for the invite. It's a real pleasure. You guys do a great job.
Thanks,
Thank
Reed.
you.
Thanks.
We appreciate that a lot. Very excited to have you aboard with us today. Let's start with let's go back through your career. What kind of got you into broadcasting?
Well, for me, it started early, guys. I probably like just about everybody. I mean, I played the game, but from a real young age, I knew that the NHL probably wasn't going to be in my future. I could skate, but that was about it. And to this day, I still can't shoot worth anything. So, I figured I always wanted to be involved in the game. And my biggest influence, my dad is a Bruins fan going back to the 1960s. So when I was a kid, on our block, we had cable, old school, with one of those boxes in the basement, and we had the super stations, which got us WSBK out of Boston. And Fred Cusick and Derek Sanderson calling Bruins games in the early 90s, and the teams with Oates and Janney and Neely, Bork, who was my favorite player, Andy Moog, on to John Casey. Those teams were really special to me. And it was Fred Cusick who really made me want to be a broadcaster. It got to the point where I wanted to be able to make people feel the way that I felt watching and listening to him. And as time went along, the trick that I used I still find funny to this day, this is how I got into it, was I would actually mute my Sega Genesis. Oh boy, I just aged myself pretty good, didn't I? While I was playing hockey video games, and I would call the game myself. I probably started doing that at 5 or 6 years old. And NHL 94 was the first one I remember doing that with. And by the time that I got into college and I had a chance to actually go behind a mic and really get a shot at it, it kind of felt like something I had done before. So it just always kind of felt natural to me. I mean, I was always a stats nerd. I got a massive hockey card collection. I could memorize statistics off the back of a hockey card. I just wish I could have memorized that with a bunch of schoolwork, because math class, gone. But hockey has always held a special place for me. And, it's been a passion since I was a really young guy.
You know what's funny about that for a quick second? You mentioned that math thing, and that was the same thing for me growing up. I could look at stats and I could remember player names and rosters from like the 2003 Gatineau Olympics, and I could go through stuff. I could add the goals and the assists and make that my math right away. But when it came to actual math class, C minuses.
Yep.
Just like could not do it. But I could memorize everything to do with a player and their statistics.
I can probably still tell you 2/3 of the Hamilton Canucks team that I watched personally for the first time the night that Cameron Mann flipped me a puck over the glass. But if you ask me how to work a triangle in geometry, I got no idea.
Yeah, agreed.
Reed, if I'm not mistaken, you graduated from Mohawk College, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
What were the first steps as a young broadcaster coming out of college right for you?
Well, for me, it started in college because I was really, really lucky that Mohawk College had a partnership with the then AHL Hamilton Bulldogs, where they broadcasted all of the home games on an in-house closed circuit feed. And when I was a freshman at Mohawk, I had no idea of this walking in the door when I was starting television broadcasting, but they were looking for a play-by-play guy for their in-house closed circuit. And I had said to a couple of people that was my goal. And they said, why don't you go downstairs and give it a shot? And they're like, we don't know if they'll take a freshman to do it, but maybe you get on the crew, it can't hurt you. Went down, did like a demo in front of some people. I just remember everybody in the room kind of stopped and went, okay, you're doing it. Oh, all right. Well, what does that entail? Well, you go to class all day, and then on game days, you'd show up and, probably 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon and build out your entire broadcast booth. And by the way, guys, if you know the gondola in Hamilton where I ended up doing the OHL Bulldogs and some AHL Bulldogs before that, I wasn't there. I was in the second deck of the seating in the back corner, because that's where they stuck the college broadcast crew, building my own set, tearing it down afterwards. I'd show up at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, get home at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, and did not care. I was so excited just to have the opportunity to do it. First Bulldogs game that I ever did, David Desharnais had just been the ECHL MVP, and P.A. Parenteau was playing for the Hartford Wolfpack. So that shows you how long ago that was. But that one always stuck with me.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be cool. Definitely interesting as well, being away, like further away from the action as you usually would be.
Hey, you know what? For that, I could have been in the parking lot on a small screen. I didn't care. If I had the opportunity, I was going to make the absolute most of it and smile doing it.
Definitely. Yeah, that's what you got to do.
What was the transition like going from, as we kind of jump into this, but like the transition from calling games in Hamilton to then now calling games in Brantford? Like, how big of a difference is that? And how does how have the fans kind of reacted to that? I'm not too familiar with Ontario, so I'm not sure if like it's like a 20-minute drive or if it's an hour difference between the two cities, but maybe you can kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, you're not far off actually. I'm saying 20 minutes. So from arena to arena, you're looking at maybe a half an hour. Now the high traffic on Highway 403, you never do quite know, but probably generally if you're just driving in between, you're looking at about half an hour or so. So it's really not that bad at all. And one of the reasons that the Bulldogs initially moved to Brantford when we were told in Hamilton you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Was that it was still the proximity to our fan base. It wasn't moving it right out of Hamilton. It wasn't just ripping it away from the fans that had followed the team through 2 OHL championships. But the fans in Brantford, you talk about embracing a team, loving a team, making a team your own. That's what this city, this fan base, it's been spectacular. It's been sold out every night. The games are loud. I mean, you talk to any visiting team in the OHL, they don't like coming here because the fans are just wild. They're so awesome to have on your side and so not fun to have against you when they're chirping you right over the tunnel as you're going on and off the ice. The differences in calling in the two buildings, dramatic. In Hamilton, we were, First Ontario Center, now TD Coliseum. It's a huge building. It's 17,500 seat, and you're in the gondola all the way up at the top of the building. So you had to take the elevator to get up to the top floor, walk across the catwalk. You're way up top. You can't miss a thing because you see everything. But at times you almost lost the sense of how fast the game actually is because you're so high up in that building. Here in Brantford, I mean, I'm sitting in my broadcast booth right now. My office is my broadcast booth. And if I look out, I mean, there's one bowl of seats and I'm maybe 10 feet above that bowl. So I'm hanging out over the plexi that's right next to me here, calling the action on a lot of nights if I'm looking down to either end. So it's a lot of fun. You feel like you're close to the action. You feel like you're right on top of the game because you are. A couple of nights that it's really helped us when we've had goal reviews or major penalty reviews. Don't tell the officials, but we can look over their shoulder and see the iPad. So, there are nights where this kind of proximity really helps out, and it's made it a lot of fun. You feel like you're a part of the game and you feel like you're a part of the crowd when you're this close to the ice. We're in the process of getting a new building that'll be in the same footprint right next door here in Brantford, and that'll be fun because I think we'll be up a little bit higher, probably 5,500 or so seats. So you get a little bit more height, a little bit more view of the whole ice. But, big games, there's nothing quite replicates this where your feet are shaking on the floor underneath you as the crowd's going wild. It's a heck of an atmosphere in this building.
Reed, what's your favorite part of a game day routine? I would assume you have a game day routine because when I was calling games for the University of Toronto, I had a routine every time I went in there. So I would assume you have one as well.
Yeah, it's every game day is pretty well the same for me. And the nice thing is that I've been doing this for so long now that I've got into a groove of getting the stat packs already because, being the director of broadcast and communications as well, stat packs are on me, updating the website's on me. So putting all that together and going through and kind of like a little mental checklist of each one that I do as I go along. And would it shock you that I do them in the same order every single game day? And then when it comes right down to it, probably 2 hours before the game, that's when like nobody kind of bugs me. And what I'll do is I'll sit and go over all the statistics for both teams, write out my lineup cards for both teams. And I can't do it on the computer. I have to handwrite it. For some reason, the handwriting clicks in. And hopefully earlier on in the day, I should mention, I've had a chance to watch back the last game for both teams, or at least an extended highlights of the last game for both teams, just to get a sense of who's hot, who's going, and then follow it up with your statistics, scoring streaks, last time the two teams played each other, that sort of thing. So I'm making my lineup card, then I'm making my little notes around the players on the lineup card, last time they played. He's, 5 assists in his last 7 games, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of the way that I roll into it. And then by the time we start the game, I have to do the open of the game the same way every single time, or I don't feel right. It's to my partner for starting goaltenders, or if I'm on the road, I do it myself. Back to me, referees, to center ice, jersey color visiting team, jersey color home team. Bulldogs are going left to right or right to left, depending on what building we're in. And they're starting the line of Thomas Lardis and Brown, just to throw out the line from last year. Once I get through that, then we're off to the races. But I have to cover that every single time, or else it just doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a routine superstition, almost as like a superstition like the players would have. So it definitely goes hand in hand.
And a lot of hot tea, guys. Lots of hot tea and lemon.
Yes, the throat would definitely get sore after probably a period.
68 games in a season plus playoffs. Yeah, by the end. It's funny, too. The last weekend of every season for the last 4 years, I've gotten sick.
It might just be the way it works.
Yeah, it's just bad. I usually have to call the first game of the playoffs with some sort of a cold. It just the way it always turns out.
Well, Reed, I want to switch to this just for a little second. When I go on your Twitter, it's the first thing everybody sees because it's pinned there. And I wanted to talk about this because I would assume it's probably a big moment in your career. You called a couple of nice goals by Mason McTavish, a pretty good prospect back then. And then were featured on Hockey Night in Canada by Ron MacLean. Can you walk me through that process and how that all felt for you?
Well, this one's actually really funny, guys. So that night he came back, and keep in mind, this was right after, so this 2021-22, the championship season for the Bulldogs. And what a lot of people forget is, because you don't think of it now, this was right after COVID. And we were playing at that time with no fans in the stands. Like the OHL, to keep going and get along with Ontario regulations, had to have no fans for a period of time. McTavish comes back from the Olympics, and his first game back in has those 2 great goals. That team was just incredible. It was so loaded. It was unbelievable. But we finished the game, and I'm downstairs in my office at First Ontario Center at the time, which was down the elevator and then through into the side offices, kind of like in a back cavern almost. It was a nice office, not saying anything bad about it, but it was like you were kind of away from a lot of stuff. And all of a sudden, I have somebody come in and say, "You're on Hockey Night in Canada." I went, "No, I'm not. I'm sitting here." And then my phone starts going off, and people go, "Do you know you're on Hockey Night in Canada right now?" How is that possible? I'm sitting in my office. I can't be. And then it was actually one of my very good friends sent me the video off his TV of, "Dude, Ron MacLean just shouted you out on Hockey Night in Canada." And I was stunned. I think I probably sat in silence for 10 minutes just watching the video and going, "Did that really just happen? Did they really just say my name on Hockey Night in Canada?" Obviously, guys, I grew up in the East End of Hamilton. Hockey Night in Canada has been a fixture for me, from I was probably watching it in the late 80s as a baby in my parents' arms, for crying out loud. To hear Ron MacLean say that I had a great call, I still to this day can't put that into words. I mean, whether he was just being nice or not, I don't care. He said it, and it was an awesome moment for me, and it's something that I'm super proud of, and it's one of those things that just keeps driving you on to keep going.
Yeah, that's going to be an absolutely surreal moment.
It was, yeah. Oh, totally.
Have you had a chance to talk to Ron MacLean since then?
Yeah, and I tell you, so 2 guys that have been in Canadian media really, really good to me, Ron MacLean and Chris Cuthbert. Ron MacLean is, he's a gentleman. Everything that he does, and the times that I've had to interact with him, not terribly long interactions, but just a really nice man. And Chris Cuthbert, I talked about Fred Cusick earlier. One of the weird ones that's always stuck out to me of a call that, again, made me want to do this. it had nothing to do with the Boston Bruins, despite growing up a Bruins fan. It was the Islanders and the Penguins in 1993 when David Volek scored in overtime to eliminate the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And Chris Cuthbert with the famous David Volek, and he'll be a new Stanley Cup champion in 1993. I got a chance to tell him that was a moment that, for me, for whatever reason, stuck out. The moment, the call, it was perfect. And let's be honest, guys, when it comes to Canadian play-by-play guys, Chris Cuthbert's the dean. He's the man. And to hear him say nice things about me, man, like, those are the kind of moments that you can't replicate. You can't predict. Like, you just kind of have to sit back and smile and enjoy them. And you know, anytime those kind of guys, another guy that's been so influential to me is Todd Crocker, who does the Toronto Marlies and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anytime I hear from those guys, it's a big boost to me. And anytime that they've got any sort of constructive criticism, any tips, any tricks, I mean, I'll soak that up like a sponge. You know, you want to get better every single time you're on the microphone. So to have those guys even take the time out to mention anything to you it's really special.
I want to take a second and look at the 2022 championship team, because that team was fun. Of course, you had Ryan Winterton, you had Avery Hayes, you had Logan Morrison, Arbor Jacki, Nolan Steos. I mean, the list goes on. What was it about that team that made them just stand out and ultimately get the job done and win the OHL championship?
You know, that group of guys, they never quit. Injuries, they went through a ton of them in that season. Ryan Winterton didn't play the first half of the season. Nathan Steos he was beat up in the playoffs and was still one of the best players in the Ontario Hockey League. Arbor Jacki, I don't think you could hurt Arbor Jacki, but seeing him walk around in the back after games, like, he'd play 35 minutes and he'd be gassed, and you're looking at this guy and he's ready to go out there and do it all over again. Jan Mysak could barely move in the OHL finals, and into the Memorial Cup. I remember seeing him just gut it out, and what that did for the rest of the team. Mason McTavish was really beat up in that final against Windsor and into the Memorial Cup, and you'd never know it. He just kept on going. Like, those guys just would not quit. They never quit on each other or themselves. And even in tough moments, there weren't many in the second half of that season, but I remember after the first game, swept all the way through the OHL final. Windsor Spitfires come into the building, and, you know, maybe you're too high on the horse. Maybe, you know, Windsor's got something to prove. Windsor was a really good team. Wyatt Johnston, Will Cooley, those guys were outstanding. And they got the Bulldogs in overtime. And I remember thinking, oh, yeah, this is what it feels like to lose. It's been a while. And you go down and you talk to the guys, they just wouldn't. Sure, they weren't happy that they lost, but they wouldn't get down on themselves or each other. It's all right. We'll go out and get game 2. We no problem. I remember after we lost game 6 on the road in Windsor. So the Bulldogs had fought back Gavin White, a great overtime goal in game 4 to tie the series. Bulldogs win game 5 on home ice. Game 6, they drop. Windsor, great bounce back on home ice. And I said to Arbor Jacki after game 6, that's a tough one. Arbor said, yeah, we wanted to win it on home ice anyway. Like, these guys just never gave up. They were impossible to stop. They were not going to be denied. And they went through some really good teams. The Mississauga Steelheads team they beat was excellent. You look at the Peterborough Peach team. They went on to win the OHL championship the following year. The North Bay Battalion were scoring goals in bunches. Windsor, if the Bulldogs had for any reason stubbed their toe on the way to the final, Windsor was going to win that championship. It was an incredible team that was put together by Steve Steos and company that just did a spectacular job of executing. And then you put together Andreas Carlson, Andrew Campbell, and head coach Jamie Key behind the bench. You can't ask for a better coaching staff. Those guys knew every button to push, every lever to pull, who they needed to talk to, who they needed to leave alone, when they needed to push somebody a little bit more, when they needed to back off. There was just that sense of how to put a team together, how to manage a team, and for the players, how to go out and execute on what the coaches put in place. It was as great of a team as I've seen in the Ontario Hockey League.
Would you? Yeah. Okay. That basically just answered my next question. So that was good. Good. So does that team rank as like one of your favorite teams to call then?
Absolutely. I got to and getting to travel with those guys, the characters on that team. whether it's Ryan Humphrey, who's gone on, he's at Western Michigan now. What a great character to keep the guys loose. George Diaco's gone on to a great career in Europe. Another guy that, real character, Arbor Jack. Everybody knows about Arbor Jack. Colton Kammer is one of the best leaders and one of the most underrated players that I've ever seen. I mean, he's starring at UNB. He's going to play in the pros. I have no doubt about that. But up and down that lineup, it was great guys, great leaders, and great characters. They were just one of the most fun groups that you could possibly be around. They were a true brotherhood. I mean, there was no cliques. There was no groups. Everybody was together all the time. They enjoyed coming to the rink. And I remember the coaches trying to get them off the ice at practices. The guys didn't want to come off the ice. They just loved being at the rink. They loved being around one another. They were truly special as a group together. And that's what made that team so good.
What's your favorite call from your days with Brantford and Hamilton? Do you, just give us one.
There's been so many of them that I could draw on. But I think the guys would probably, especially in the front office, like our assistant general manager, Justin Ishmael, would probably give me hell if I didn't say it was put Bobby on the bus when we swept North Bay in 2022. And that Bobby Orr trophy was sitting down. I could see it through the tunnel. And as time was ticking down, and that was the line that is my broadcast partner, Troy Islikar, who gave it to me. He said, if you're in that spot, here you go. And sure enough, as soon as I saw that trophy start making its way out to the ice, put Bobby on the bus. The Hamilton Bulldogs are 2022 Eastern Conference champions. And that one, the guys were playing it in the locker room like for a week after that. There's a whole bunch I could give you that were incredible moments, but that one everybody seemed to really stand out. And I think Jordan Henry from the OHL used it in his sights and sounds as well. So that's how that one got a whole lot of airplay with it having been on the road.
That's a great one.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Reed, we talked about some players from the Hamilton Bulldogs in the past, but I want to talk about some players that are there on this year's squad and that are also participating at the World Junior Summer Showcase. Owen Protz, Merrick Van Acker, and Jake O'Brien. How big is that invitation to the World Junior Summer Showcase for those three players?
Well, it's huge. Merrick Van Acker, I'm so happy to see he got the invite because he probably would have got an invite the year before, if not for the shoulder injury that he played through the entire season and a U18 winning gold before that. By the way, he had 36 goals and led the team with 82 points with the shoulder. Essentially, he played with one arm from November on and still did that. It was great to see him get that call because I think it really shows that his hard work, his dedication is paying off. That's the really special thing for Merrick. And I mean, if you're Team Canada and you're looking for a guy that can score goals, penalty kill, and just be a dart up and down the wing, there's Merrick Van Acker. Owen Protz might be the most underrated player in the Ontario Hockey League. Showed up with the Bulldogs, wasn't getting minutes when he was in Sudbury, and understandable, he was a rookie defenseman. Sudbury was trying to go for it. Bulldogs get him, and right away, I mean, he moved up the lineup in a hurry. He was paired with Lucas Moore, then went up with Daniel Sobolev when Tomas Hamara got hurt in that 2023-24 season. And we saw it immediately. 6'2", 210, hits like a train, but he's got an offensive side to him that made it to the forefront last season with 5 goals and 27 assists. So Protz really added to his game and continues to get better. Great on the PK, can shut you down at 5-on-5, led the team in plus minus in this last playoff run. The guy just understands how to play in his own zone and how to move the puck quickly and effectively. And Jake O'Brien, I mean, you talk about a kid that has just taken the world by storm, the most points by any Bulldog in franchise history in his first 2 seasons. He's been incredible. And if he continues scoring at the pace that he is, or has been with the Bulldogs, he's going to break the franchise scoring record that Patrick Thomas just took this coming season. And he's going to do it in 3 years, which is mind-blowing. But he's just that good. And I think the recognition for Jake O'Brien, the 8th overall pick, what he's already done with the Bulldogs, now the Summer Showcase invite, he's knocking on that Team Canada door. I think confidence level for all 3 of those guys is going to be through the roof when they come back. And I want to mention our equipment manager too, Chris Cook. So here's a guy, his 7th Team Canada call, 11 years as an equipment manager in the National Hockey League, 11 years now in the Ontario Hockey League. He's got an OHL championship. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals. He's won the Holinka. He's won the World Junior. This is 4 straight World Juniors trip. How good do you have to be as an equipment manager to get 4 straight Team Canada calls? Chris is the best of the best. And he's one of the best people on the planet. I get the privilege of traveling up and down the roads with Cookie, and just one of my favorite people. So we actually have an extra man at the World Junior Summer Showcase this year that we're all really proud of.
Well, they do say that the equipment managers are the unsung heroes of a hockey team, and
100%.
that might be just what's going on here with Cook.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he knows everything and everybody, and he is just such a big part of the whole organization. I'm so glad that he gets his proper due from Team Canada.
Definitely. I wanted to touch on this really quickly. I'm not sure if you saw it, but I saw it in a tweet. Owen Protz, when he actually received the call from Hockey Canada, he was on a lake, he was pike fishing, and he answered it, and he couldn't barely make it out because it was cutting out so much. But I just wanted to see if you heard about that. It was kind of a funny story I saw.
I got the message he was going while I was muskie fishing, so we have something in common. And that's Owen Protz. He's that kind of guy. He's a farm guy. He is a big time fisherman, actually a really good cook too. And that's what he does. I mean, when he's in the off season, he's not thinking about, hey, I'm going to Team Canada, I'm doing this, I'm going fishing. He's my kind of guy. So it didn't surprise me at all that's what Protzy was doing. And that's what everybody loves about him. You talk about just nice kid, unassuming, works his tail off. And, to hear, I was on a fishing boat. Yeah. Oh, big shocker, Protzy.
One more article I read this morning from Scott Wheeler of The Athletic was that Merrick Van Acker, he said, is the best power forward in the CHL. Would you agree with that statement?
Woo. You know what? I'm gonna go with it, and it's kind of funny that I didn't really think of Van, and probably because I've seen him since he was 16, I didn't necessarily think of Van Acker as your prototypical power forward, because he's not like a drop the gloves kind of. I mean, he can, but that's not, the Bulldogs don't want him sitting for 5 minutes. He's the kind of guy that gets the puck up the boards, and he's going to turn the defenseman. He's gone in a flash. He can dip the shoulder and drive the front of the net. So, in thinking about it, I suppose the power forward label does fit. And I imagine this season he's going to use that size and strength a lot more. But we've just been so blown away by the speed that he generates for a kid his size. I mean, you're talking about a kid who's better than 6'2", and he skates like the wind. It's not fair. Guys that big shouldn't have those kind of wheels. And he can just blow past defensemen and turn goaltenders inside out. But yeah, that's, and that's a great point by Scott Wheeler. I would not have initially thought that. And, with Porter Martone looking like he's headed to Michigan State, that would have been the other guy in the running. And I think that you got to put Van Acker at the top of that list.
Yeah. And you say maybe they don't want Van Acker dropping the gloves and sitting for 5 minutes. I think that might be exactly why they brought in a guy like Ryder Bolton.
Ryder Bolton. So fun pickup in Ryder Bolton. And I think one of the big things with Ryder is going to be that what everybody forgets is, if anybody can tame Ryder Bolton just a little bit, I don't think you want to, you got to let the horse run. But Jay McKee goes back a long way with Eric Bolton, his dad. They played together with the Buffalo Sabres. I know there's a long relationship there. If there's somebody that can uncover a little bit more from Ryder Bolton, and maybe it's penalty killing, maybe it's, putting up 10 goals off of a fourth line. You're not going to ask him to go out there and be Jake O'Brien, but can you be, Sean Thornton? Can you go out there and be that kind of guy that can block shots, kill penalties, pitch in a goal or two here and there, and drop the gloves and electrify the Brantford crowd? If you get a Sean Thornton type player out of Ryder Bolton, you're not going to get him out of this lineup with the jaws of life. Like, the kid's going to be locked into a spot. And the other thing is that people forget about, you put Parker Holmes on the other side, who's 6'5" and 220, 230 pounds. That Bulldogs fourth line's got a whole lot of beef to it. And they're going to be ever dangerous on the ice. And, if Bolton adds a little bit and Parker Holmes comes back, and, He's drafted by Chicago. That's got to help him take a step forward. That could be a very fun line to watch into the OHL season.
Definitely. He's one of my favorite players in the OHL. He was definitely one of my favorite players to watch when he was in London because he always created something when he was on the ice.
Yeah, and I think you don't want to take away from that. You don't want to take away from the chaos that he causes. I think you just want to harness it and have him use it
at the right time.
Yeah, at the right time, a little bit more constructively for the team. Maybe not as wild as he was, but yeah, you got to let that pit bull off the leash every once in a while.
How important is Jay McKee, and how has he kind of just been behind the bench here? Because it seems like he's a very influential person in Brantford.
If you look at the Bulldogs chessboard, Jay McKee is the king. This is the man that he's put it all together for this team. Took the team coming out of COVID, 21-22, won the championship. But if you look at this group through essentially a rebuild after winning the championship, like all teams have to do, you got to cycle it back forward. And from Matt Turek on to Spencer Hyman at the helm, the Bulldogs have seen that roster turn over. They've made the playoffs each year. They've been they've had home ice this past season. They had home ice the season before. They took Barrie with a loaded crew of Brant Clark and Bo Akey and a great team for the Colts to 6 games in 2022-23 after winning a championship. He's the man that has been the consistent key to the success. And whether it's Nick Lardis coming in, Sahil Panwar coming in, and finding the way to integrate them into the offense, or discovering young talent, new talent to bring them to the forefront, mixing in players when the Bulldogs have been hurt or players away at the World Juniors, and you got to get young APs up and bring them into the lineup and have them look like they belong. Jay McKee has just figured out each and every spot along the way, and he's had great assistance with him, whether it be Andreas Carlson, Andrew Campbell, now it's Ryan Kuwabara and Vince Lace, Laura Fortino running the skills development side. He's had great coaches with him, but he's just fantastic. And there's going to come a day where he's coaching in the National Hockey League. Like, I think everybody knows that. We're just trying to enjoy it while we still have him and hopefully get a Memorial Cup before he heads off to the big show.
You guys drafted in the import draft pretty much the tallest player to ever exist in hockey, and that's Alexander Karmenov. Is there a hope within the Brantford organization that he does come and play?
Yeah, I don't think the organization would have drafted him if not hoping that he would get there. And I don't know whether it will be for this season or the following season. I mean, he's a very, what are they? They're dimming the lights in here on me. He's a very young player, and it will give the Bulldogs a chance to see him develop a little bit more as time goes along. But I think obviously there's going to be a hope that with some skills development and hopefully we can see him on the ice with a Laura Fortino or Luke Van Werke, or strength and conditioning coach, see what he's got and what he needs to improve, and hopefully get him to a spot where he can do that and work his way up to the Brantford Bulldogs as a mainstay, because that size, 7 feet tall and 273 pounds, if he can play, he's going to be a dangerous weapon for the Bulldogs to be able to have on the ice.
Yeah, well, one of our buddies over at Game Day Tarps on the podcast side was looking at his size and his stature, and then saw that he was committed to Penn State and said, well, man, when he gets to Penn State, watch out for those volleyball and those football and those basketball offers.
Well, and that's the thing. You look at a guy that size and you think, well, how in the world did he end up playing hockey? And especially from where he comes from, Chinasau in Moldova, not exactly a rich hockey tradition in Moldova, but he obviously loves the game. I mean, he moved from his home in Moldova, I believe it's 18 hours to where he was playing in Russia, and then decided, yeah, I'm going to fly across the pond and play in Pennsylvania. Like, this kid has traveled to try to make this dream come true. So he's committed to it, but you're right. There's going to be some people on the campus at Penn State looking at that going, can we convert him to a center under the hoop? Like, it's just natural. He's that big and that strong that, he could probably play whatever he wanted to at this point.
Definitely. Well, Reed, let's go between the pipes here for a second. I want to look at Ryerson Leanders. Last year, he posted a 3.11 goals against average and a .910 save percentage. Do you think this year in his 19-year-old season would be would he'd be able to up those numbers a little bit and kind of contend for one of those top goaltending positions in the OHL?
Yes, 100%. Ryerson Leanders, talent alone is an elite goaltender. And you combine his work ethic, he is constantly in the gym. He is constantly trying to get better. He's got a great goaltending partner in David Igorov as well, who David Igorov could be a starter on a number of teams in the Ontario Hockey League, and they have formed a tremendous partnership together. And what that does is where we've seen goaltenders get blown out or blown up before by an extended workload, the Bulldogs don't have to worry about that. They have two goaltenders that can go back and forth. They don't have to tire one out, especially when you've got 3-3 or 3-4 or 5-8 or whatever it might be. These guys can go back and forth and spell each other off. That gives Leanders the opportunity to be at his very best. And we saw that, especially in the second half of the season. I think outside of Austin Elliott, there wasn't a goaltender playing at a higher level in the OHL than Ryerson Leanders was. He was spectacular, helping the Bulldogs through a number of injuries on the way to clinching the Eastern Division and the number one overall seed in the conference. And Leanders, he had a brief injury spell in the playoffs, but he tried to hold the Bulldogs in by his fingertips in that series without Nick Lardis against the Generals, did everything he could between the pipes to give them a chance. So, yeah, I think there's every chance that Ryerson Leanders is at the very top of the OHL in terms of goaltenders this year. He's just that good, and the Buffalo Sabres got an incredible steal in the 7th round.
Before we move on here, Colton, there is a name that Reed brought up a couple times, and Reed, I want to touch on this. Laura Fortino. She's a player that has had a lot of international experience with Team Canada. How important is someone like that to the organization?
Oh, Laura's been fantastic. She is so great with the players. And I remember some of the talk when she was first hired and announced as the first female coach in the OHL. And there was, you always see the online chatter. Well, are male hockey players going to listen? Are they going to listen to an Olympic gold medalist? Are you out of your mind? Yes. Yes, of course they did. The players line up to take skills development with Laura. I mean, there was a moment this year that I remember where Laura came in and called skills development for the defense. And every defenseman on the roster, the NHL drafted guys, Adam Juracek, who had just arrived and just gotten healthy, he came skating out onto the ice to do the skills development with Laura. Those are the things that you can't turn down if you want to be a pro. And when you watch Laura Fortino work with the players, she was born to be a coach. I mean, as great of a player as she is, world champion, Olympic gold medalist. She just won the professional championship in Italy. She's going to play in the Olympics in 2026. She's that good on the ice. I think she's even better as a coach. She relates to the players. She's got great relationships with them. She understands what these guys need at this age to make it to the next level. And I think what helps is that she kind of walked a parallel path. Now, granted, there was no major junior for women, but she went through this at this age going to the NCAA. So she understands playing at the highest level at that age and what you need to do to get there and what you need to do to stay there and improve from there. So Laura is the perfect person to be working with these guys. And yeah, anybody who doesn't think that that male players will listen to a female coach, I can't help you. I mean, Laura Fortino is the perfect example. And there's going to be more guys like with Laura's success, and it's great. There's going to be more coming along the line.
Definitely. She seems like a great person to have around the organization. And like you said, I don't know why anyone would turn down a gold medalist.
No, you can't. If you want to get better, that's the kind of person you need to learn from. And from a personal side, as you mentioned, everybody in the organization loves Laura. She's fantastic to have around. She's always excited. She's always happy to be here. She's always building the players up. So you couldn't ask for somebody better to be around.
Well, Reed, we always ask our guests coming down to the end of the show what your favorite jersey is. So what would be your favorite Brantford Bulldogs jersey?
Woo. Okay, so this is a tough one because, if you go back to the Hamilton era, we've had a lot of different jerseys that in my home studio hang on the wall. I think I'm going to go with the Brantford third jersey, the B, that we wore in the playoffs this year with the gold stripes down the black arm and the B with the paw over top of it. And I'm not saying that just because it's a Bruins B in the middle of the jersey. it is a slick looking jersey. That when we debuted them in front of this Brantford crowd, that Brantford B, it really made that connection whole. Honorable mention to the Brantford Alexanders jerseys that we did this year that captured the spirit of the 70s and early 80s. And Chris Cook, again, back to Cookie. He did the pants and the socks, the pant shell and the socks to make them look like Cooperalls. So the whole thing was just so good. So B jersey, Alexander's jersey, and of course I've got the black one with my 500th game that the team did for me. So that one would round out my top three.
Nice. That's got to be good. Now you brought it up yourself. I wanted to touch on it. You're a big Boston sports guy. How did that all come into play?
That was my dad. So the Boston Bruins were his team. Jerry Cheevers was his guy with the stitches on the mask. My dad was a goalie for years. My brother's a goalie. And we always, and it's how my dad and I really bonded and still do. We watch Bruins games together. And even if we're not in the same place at the same time, we'll watch the games and text each other back and forth about what's going on in the game. He's a little more pessimistic than I am. I'm the optimistic one. So I gotta cool him down sometimes, but it's so much fun to have that bond with him over, our love for the Bees. And then because we had the Boston cable channel to be able to watch the Bruins in the summer, it was the Red Sox. So I just naturally went from watching the Bruins to watching the Red Sox on the same channel. Why not? So Bruins fan, Red Sox fan. Hockey season, I don't have a ton of time to watch basketball, so I'm kind of like a pseudo Celtics fan just because it's there. But yeah, Bruins and Red Sox are those are my big ones.
Now you grew up in Hamilton, not far from Toronto. Toronto and Boston, obviously not the biggest of friends when you come to sports teams. Did you ever go to the Rogers Center and kind of act as a villain in a way? Cheering for the Red Sox?
Oh, a couple of times, yeah. So even without trying. So one time I went, and my favorite pitcher at one time was John Lester. In that run in the 2000 to the 2010s where the Red Sox were just unreal. I'm wearing a John Lester jersey, and we go in for the game, and that was the whole reason I went, was I had not had a chance to watch John Lester pitch in person. Pitched a complete game shutout. The guy in the Boston jersey wearing the John Lester, right, walking out of there, all the people who were having fun with me walking in suddenly weren't so happy I was there walking out. So it was like inadvertently being the villain. I was trying, I understand where I am in those moments. So as the innings are piling up, I'm kind of getting lower in my chair, right? Like, don't look over here. So, even when I'm not trying, just being a Boston fan with the proximity to Toronto, like my wedding, guys, my two groomsmen, Toronto fans. One of my best friends, who's a professional wrestler, is a Maple Leafs fan. That's a big part of his shtick. I can't get one of my best friends here in the office, Leafs fan. I can't get away from them. They're everywhere. So every once in a while, I got to wear the villain hat.
It's okay. I agree that the villain hat can be fun to wear sometimes. I was a big Habs supporter. I grew up on the East Coast here. It's either Montreal or Boston. So, and I was in Toronto for school the last 2 years, so everybody was a Leafs fan.
Oh, you want a good one. So my mom and my dad, both huge hockey fans. I wouldn't be doing this if not for them. My dad is a Bruins fan. My mom's a Habs fan.
Oh, that's tough.
Can't watch playoff series on the same floor. We had to put TVs higher up in the house so that mom could go upstairs and dad could go downstairs. Everything was fine after one of them was eliminated. But for 2 weeks, my parents may not have been friends.
Now, what if Boston and Montreal played each other? Were they watching on different TVs the same game?
Yeah, when all those times they were playing each other, different floors, man. No, they don't mix when Boston and Montreal are going against one another.
That's great. That's great.
Together when one of them's playing Toronto, but when it's no.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Oh, we said that at the same time. Good Lord.
And then my brother's an Avs fan, so he got to stay out of it completely. He went with Patrick Waugh in the 90s. He just went, forget it. I'm out of this madness.
Smart man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He got out of the whole conflict. It was great.
We asked you your favorite Brantford jersey, but what's your favorite jersey in the OHL other than Brantford? Are you allowed to say?
Well, I mean, I think I've said a few of them on the air before, right? Because there's so many iconic looks in the Ontario Hockey League that just haven't changed over time. The Kitchener Rangers, the Ottawa 67s, like there are so many that are just awesome. I'm gonna make myself a villain again. So because Hamilton didn't have an OHL team when I was growing up, I was a London Knights fan. Now that was before the Knights or the Knights that we know today, but they were close-ish anyway. And my dad would take me down to see the Knights play. So I'm gonna go with the Knights greens. The green and gold just looks so cool. So I'm gonna go with those, but easily Kitchener, Ottawa, Oshawa. I mean, the real classic ones that haven't really changed over time. And Oshawa's vintage reds are just like they're fantastic. So honorable mention of those, but I'll go with the London Greens.
When you're on the road, Reed, what's the most unique barn to call a game in?
Ooh, well, outside of ours, unique one to call a game in. Peterborough is pretty unique. So the stands in Peterborough, it's not all that different than it is here in terms of it's a bowl or a bit of a horseshoe, and they've added like a really nice bar and restaurant in the back. But where I am is the visiting broadcaster. So I'm inside of what is the Peterborough blue line in the first period. And it's like a flat plane going back. And I've got a booth like a little bit smaller than this. And it's kind of like a room that's got like a plexiglass front to it. But right in front of me are the Peterborough fans. Now, look, the Peterborough fans are they've been so fantastic. I've never had any issues with fans in Peterborough. They are awesome folks. I love the folks in Peterborough. I vacation there in the summer, so you got to love them. Their mascot a number of times has come up and climbed the glass and done the wrestling poses. Roger is a big wrestling fan, so I'll pick out the wrestling poses that he's doing, being a wrestling guy myself. So I have a lot of fun with that, but it can get a little bit challenging because you're looking. It's like you're flat back and then looking down the side of the rink. So when the play's in the other end, it gets a little two-dimensional, but there's so much history in that building. Like you can't complain. The other one is Oshawa, which is a beautiful setup. I love the building. I'm like right over the half of the neutral zone closest to the Bulldogs net, but the goal horn is directly above my head. So Oshawa scores, I'm deaf for about 45 seconds. So I have to keep talking in hopes that my hearing will come back. And, it's just one of those quirks of the OHL. You know it going in every time that as soon as they score, you're going to get blasted and hear it in your head. So it's just fun, right? Like it's such a fun league to be involved in, and so much history, and the buildings are a lot of fun to go into.
One last one from me, Reed. You go around to all these rinks, or even in Brantford, what's your favorite press box or arena meal before a game?
Ooh, there's a lot of good ones. Saginaw's always got an incredible spread. There have been a couple times in Owen Sound where they've had, we've been up there in the dead of winter and gotten hot soup, like homemade hot soup that has just been next level. So I'll go Owen Sound, Saginaw, and I got to go back to my friends in Oshawa, and it's because there's a couple of ladies who sit in the front of the media room in Oshawa who are two of the friendliest people that you're going to meet anywhere. That I just love going in and getting to talk to, and they've always got hot pizza, salad, and hot tea, and that together, I'm a happy man. So those would be the buildings that they're real easy to go into for a meal.
Well, my last question for you, Reed, who do you figure is the most underrated player in the OHL? And it can be from Brantford as well. Doesn't have to be doesn't have to be another team. Can be from Brantford too.
Yeah, I'll be a bit of a homer, and I'm going Owen Protz. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. He was a 4th round pick in the NHL draft for a reason, but even up through last season with how great he was playing, you just don't hear him mentioned amongst the elite of the elite defensemen in the OHL. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, a guy like Sam Dickinson last year was having a ridiculous year. The fact that he's a defenseman and does what he does is incredible. Zane Parekh incredible year. So I understand that offensively in those numbers, those guys were on a different level, but Owen Protz is as good as anybody in playing the position. And I just don't think he gets enough love around the league. And I think we're luckily with the World Junior Summer Showcase invite, I think we're starting to see that turn. I think this year you'll see him be a huge piece to the Bulldogs blue line. But Owen Protz would be the guy for me that I really think needs more love than he gets. And I'm glad that he's really starting to see that.
I actually have one more question. I'm just going to quickly fire this one off. But how important is it that Jake O'Brien returned to Brantford and didn't go to the NCAA?
Okay, how much trouble can I get in and how fast? All right. Massive. And, I don't want to say that there wasn't a concern that would happen, because obviously with that door open, anybody can go at any time. And Jake O'Brien clearly was at the top of a lot of people's lists. I think the play for Jake, and he's a really smart kid. His dad played in the NCAA as well. So there was definitely that pull there. I think for Jake, the play was the NHL. I think that's where he wanted to be. I think he wanted to sign. He wanted to be able to go to training camp and do all the things as a top 10 NHL pick would. So that putting together with the pieces of the puzzle for the Bulldogs is huge, because if you take him out, you take out that spectacular center. You take out the guy who can drive you forward. You take out the guy who can really lead this team on a chase for a Memorial Cup, offensively and defensively. He doesn't get enough credit for how hard he works in the defensive zone and how good he's gotten as a penalty killer. So having him back is a big step forward for the Bulldogs. And with him back, and the combination with him and Merrick Van Acker that's been so good over time, and then you add a Caleb Malholtra, you add a Cooper Dennis, you add a Sam McHugh, you start putting all of that together and you see where this team is going and what they're doing. But that is predicated on having Jake O'Brien in the middle of the ice. So I think that I know there's been a lot of chatter about the NCAA CHL partnership or whatever it is. I think in the long run, it's going to be good for major junior hockey, because for every player that you lose, so the Bulldogs lost who could have been an OA and Cole Brown, but gain Edison Engel, Cooper Dennis, Caleb Malholtra. There's a number of guys that came up that wouldn't have before. So for every guy that goes, you're gaining 4, 5, 6 guys into the Q, the O, the dub. That's what people have to look at. Sure, some of the big names go, but you're going to add big names that never would have come here at all because of that. So I think overall it's going to be a positive. But in that sense, huge for the Bulldogs to keep O'Brien. Huge that he signed in Seattle and got that moment. It's what the Bulldogs needed to really push this thing and try for a Memorial Cup.
Yeah, that's great analysis there. You're the best, Reed. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate having you on.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I'm looking forward to sending you a few more Bulldogs to the show to follow up. And anytime you guys need me, I'm more than happy. It's been a pleasure to chat with you guys. It's really great.
Thank you, Reed. We'll definitely have to have you back on sometime.
Hey, anytime. Love to.
Take care. Well, Colton, another great episode with Reed Duthie, the voice of the Brantford Bulldogs. We had Spencer Hyman on last week, so we've got some great Brantford insight the past couple of weeks here on the show.
It's been fun. Yeah, I'm a big Brantford fan now.
We have to be now.
Yeah.
So, Colton, we'll switch to a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back to wrap up the show.
Looking for a new way to quench your thirst? Game Day Tarps is now an official Quench affiliate. Head on over to quench.ca/GameDayTarpsPodcast and use our code GameDayTarpsPodcast, all caps, all one word, for 15% off your total order. Stay cool this summer with the #1 sports drink on the market. Stay quenched.
Is the off-season bumming you out?
Yeah.
Do you wish you had more hockey content to consume?
Yeah.
Well, head on over to patreon.com/GameDayTarps
and check out all the exclusive content we have to offer. Behind the scenes videos, in-depth analysis, and so much more. Select a membership tier and enjoy the content made only for you. Only at patreon.com/gamedaytarps.
And since we're on the topic, if you guys want the audio versions of our podcast to listen to while you're driving, while you're at the gym, while you're on a walk, while you're with the woman, who knows? Head over to thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, go down to the bottom of the page, find the original content, and you'll see the Game Day Tarps podcast. That'll bring you right to our Apple Podcast or our Spotify. And make sure you download all the episodes. It really helps us out. You guys will be able to listen to us wherever, whenever. And yeah, we definitely appreciate it. Colton, you had something you wanted to touch on before.
I will hold up. I will personally pay somebody money if they send me a DM with a screenshot of them watching the show while they're with their woman. That's insane.
Do it.
Yeah. No, I wanted to touch on the NCAA stuff, but honestly, we can do that tomorrow.
So talk about it now. Why not? It's a good way to end off the show.
Yeah, okay. Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald had a great article go out this morning talking about 20 Canadian players that you need to watch who are going to head off to the NCAA. Of course, number 1 on the list is Landon Dupont. Number 2 is Alexi Joseph. And then I'm just going to kind of read a few more names that just through his kind of like his top 5 here. He's got Caden McGregor, of course. Number 4 is Brock Cripps, who plays for the Victoria, who's playing for the Prince Albert Raiders. Number 5, Jackson Jacobson, who's out in Brandon. James Scantlebury is another player that he's listed, as well as Zach Arsenault. So 2 guys that you would probably be familiar with, Dayton, more QMJHL guys. Scantlebury, of course, was playing with the Chicago Steel, or is going to be playing with the Chicago Steel, I believe. So
well, he was at camp when he got drafted.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting article. You're talking a lot about guys who are older, not older, who are super young. Sorry, these are 09s, right? Like a lot of these guys are 2009 players. So it's going to be interesting to see because as of Friday, Brad was saying that these 2009 born commits can start committing to these schools. So not that you're going to see Landon Dupont commit on Friday, but you could very well see, a couple of players of that caliber commit maybe in the next few weeks here, or they'll kind of do what Gavin McKenna does and what Porter Martone have done and other players of that stature and just kind of waited until the end of the season. But it's an interesting article just because it's a hot topic, right? Like you're already talking about these 15-year-olds now who can go and play in the NCAA, and Landon Dupont's the big fish now.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that because although it is becoming the new standard and the new thing, I might think that some of these kids, Alexi Joseph, James Scantlebury, like I'm just naming Q kids. Landon Dupont obviously has played in the WHL, but I'm naming kids that haven't really played for their junior teams yet and just got drafted this year. My thing is, if they commit before they even play a game for their junior team, what kind of impression does that put on you? Like it's almost like you're saying, "Oh, I'll play a year or 2 here and then go."
Pretty much, yeah.
I would think they would wait until maybe after the first season, or at least till like midway point. I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to say. I'm not one of them.
Yeah,
I'm not that good.
No, that's fair. That's fair. You were good, but not that good. We'll get Brad back on, honestly, in the next couple of weeks here. Maybe get him to kind of break that down a little bit and explain it to us how that works for those kids. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that we're already talking about Landon Dupont going to the NCAA.
Yes, sir. It's definitely going to be a good one. Well, Colton, you want to let everyone know what's going on tomorrow?
Yes. Tomorrow, Stefan Rosner from the works for the NHL.com and the Hockey News. He's a New York Islanders beat writer. He's been on The Sheet, been on plenty of shows before. So Stefan's going to join us, and we're going to talk all things New York Islanders with him, talk about Matthew Schaefer. He's had a chance to interview him one-on-one. So we'll talk a lot about what the Islanders have done this offseason and kind of continue on our role with going around the league and talking to different reporters from different teams. We've got about 7 or 8 teams left that we got to kind of hit on. If you guys have any reporters that you want on, of course, always leave them in the comments or tweet us. But tomorrow, Stefan Rosner will be joining us, and we'll talk about the New York Islanders.
That sounds great. And fellas, one more time, go over, head to the Hockey Podcast Network, download all of the audio versions, and we'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right here, only on GDT Live. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning into another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.